said correctly, Elite, this is something you started?
Yes, so I co-founded Elite, which is Educated Ladies Investing in Tomorrow's Exemplars.
Okay.
And this was a nonprofit that I started along with a best friend of mine while I was in law school. And we decided that there was not a lot of mentorship happening where we grew up in Southeast San Diego. And so we enlisted the help of my other best friends and we created this nonprofit. And we talked to young girls from this community about living out their fullest potential. We talk to them very honestly about education, about boys, about making goals, career decisions, and our staple annual event was a Little Ladies Luncheon. So there they would hear keynote speakers like judges who look like them and people who are just excelling in our community so that they could see folks who look like them other than us women who mentored them every single day.
Right.
Of course, that was important, but then to also show them that there are other people and you can do this. And so Elite was an organization that was really close to my heart. We would be very connected with the schools that these young girls went to. The principals knew us because we were up at the schools. We sat in their classrooms. Parents gave us permission to do that. And Elite was just something outstanding that you just never saw. So we took the girls up to Lobby Day with the NAACP. So we took them on a bus to Sacramento. They met their state legislators and they got to talk to their state legislators and representatives about what was important to them as teens right here from this community. And so that's Elite. What you're talking about is the Commission on Gang Prevention and Intervention. And that's with the city of San Diego. Okay. And I still currently serve on that board. I chair the Gang Documentation Committee, and I sit on every single committee that is a part of the Gang Commission. And I put that in quotes because the long name is Commission on Gang Prevention and Intervention. Okay. And so we're doing work with police, we're doing work with the superintendent, who are all members of the Gang Commission.
I want to get your opinion on gang documentation because growing up, it wasn't until I remember in my life, we were with one of my friends' moms, and she overheard us telling the story of how the police took a picture of a friend of mine, and she was outraged, and we were like, "What's the big deal? They always pull you over and take pictures of you." So later to discover this is part of a gang documentation thing that can be used against you. What is your opinion of Cal Gang's gang documentation? And do you have any opinions on the criteria that they use for gang documentation?
So as I mentioned before with growing up, I always grew up with gang members. Mm-hmm. And so my interactions with gang members is completely different than what I see being portrayed by the news, because I've intimately interacted, grew up with people known as gang members. And so that colors my perspective. Right. Sitting on the commission was very important for me because it really connects with the work that I do as a public defender. I'm seeing a lot of cases where gang enhancements are charged on young men who are not gang members at all, but they happen to go on their Facebook page and see a young man in a red shirt 3 times or holding a trophy with his friends and they're wearing green because they play for the Hornets. And I'm not pulling this stuff out just to say it. This is actual stuff that happens in cases. Right. And so I look at all this stuff and I'm thinking, well, how can there be so many people in the Cal Gang database that fit the criteria according to SDPD for being a gang member? And I'm looking at cases and I'm looking at entries and I'm thinking, wow, this person was documented for being on the block where they live. That's one piece of criteria where they say they fit being a gang member. And then they just needed 2 more. Right. And you know, the 2 more would be being with their buddy or being in a gang area. Right. And when you're talking about generalities like gang area, what does that mean? That can be an entire community, can be classified as a gang area. That needs to change. Right. When you talk about being with a known gang member, well, known to whom? Do I have to know they're a gang member? Or is it only known to the police officer? And how does the police officer know that they're a gang member? And so you have to start talking about these things and addressing these issues that come up with criteria. there are so many pieces of the criteria that are unreliable that we have to take a step back and we have to say, is this outdated? Is it baseless? Should we be using this as criteria? So I think that we have the opportunity now to have an honest conversation about what it means to be a gang member, what it means to be documented as a gang member, and how are we classifying people, and what is this criteria? We have got to take a step back and look at the criteria.
So what can you do as the DA really to impact that or have anything to do with that? Can you stop or slow down gang documentation?
So the Cal Gang database, as the California Department of Justice requires, they only require 2 pieces of criteria before someone's actually put into the Cal Gang database. San Diego requires 3. So it's a little more of a heightened level in order to put someone into the database as far as the number of criteria. But when you look at the fact that someone can have that same piece of criteria used 3 times to put them into the database, once again, we have to take a step back and say, well, it sounds good that you have 1 more piece of criteria that you need, but if it is just wearing a red shirt 3 different days, that can put me into the database. How reliable is that? So I want to make sure that that's very clear.
Okay.
The other part of it is that the district attorney does not even have access to the Cal Gang database.
Okay.
And I know this because in one of my meetings, Bonnie Dumanis came and we were talking about access to the Cal Gang database, and she confirmed that she has no way of even looking at it as the district attorney. Okay. And so there are very specific rules about who can go into the database, and it's all because of privacy concerns and keeping things confidential. But when you look at the audit, we were seeing that other counties were actually releasing this information to potential employers, current employers, and even to the military, and sometimes housing authorities. And so we were learning that you can be in the Cal Gang database, not know you're in the database, and be adversely impacted for being in the database.
Okay. So, but as far as DA, you can't.
Not to the database specifically, but as far as charging people with gang enhancements, absolutely the DA has the power in doing it and not doing it. And so what I see right now in our DA's office is that they use the gang enhancements way too much. And they try to oversimplify what being a gang member is so that they can attach that enhancement to every single person. And I can tell you this, just because you happen to be a gang member doesn't mean that you committed a crime for the benefit of the gang. And right now the DA's office does not get that. And so we're seeing young men looking at an additional 10 years or 15 years or even life because they're saying that because they're a gang member that they committed a crime for the benefit of the gang, which is not necessarily the case.
Okay, so you're talking about things like 182.5 and things like that. Is that what you're referring to? Where they're putting a bunch of people in on one thing? Is that what you're saying, or is that it doesn't? You don't need 182.5 to claim someone did something as a part of a gang? You
do not need 182.5 to claim that someone committed a crime for the benefit of the gang.
Oh, so you can just do a gang enhancement on any?
Absolutely. Gang enhancements can make a misdemeanor a felony.
Wow.
Gang enhancements can make a felony a strike. Gang enhancements will add years to your sentence if they're found to be true or if they're admitted in court. You can support me, Jones-Wright for DA 2018 by going to my website, www.joneswright4da.com. That is FOR, not the number, JONESWRIGHT4DA.com. There you can sign up to volunteer. There's a big red donate button. Even if you don't have a lot of money, I'm getting dollar donations. I'm happy to accept them. This is a people power campaign. So if you can't give a lot, just give what you can because you understand the change that's needed. Follow me on social media. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. Jones-Wright, the number 4 DA is my Twitter handle, also my handle for Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Just go to Jones-Wright for DA. You're going to love the videos I put up. I keep it real at all times. So follow me on social media.